Chugging along this snake-shaped winding path is a toy-like C2 class locomotive train. This locomotive, nicknamed Matchbox, pulls 7 small railroad cars. Throughout the green mountainside of China's Sichuan province, its whistle echoes. Running across the southern area of Sichuan province is the large Min River. The Bashu Railroad's starting point is at this city along the Min River named Shishu. The train makes 4 round trips per day. The first train leaves the depot at 7 a.m. and the last leaves at 5:30 p.m. Each day, it carries approximately 700 passengers. The passengers are locals, commuting to work, trading livestock and produce, and shopping for daily necessities. The Bashu Railroad's C2 class steam locomotive is a tiny 10.9 meters in length and 28 tons in weight. The width of the railway track is a mere 762 millimeters, half the size of a regular railroad. Even the hitches are less than 40 centimeters and are linked together by inserting iron rods. The C2 model was manufactured from 1959 through the 1970s and was used for transporting lumber and coal. Engine driver Gung Ling has operated this locomotive for 25 years. The Bashu Railroad's railway is mountainous, passing very few farmlands. Thus, farm products must be bought from Shishu city. Although a small railroad, for those living along the railway line, it is key to their survival. The train is ready and will depart in just a few moments. Built on the mountain slopes, Shishu Station does not have an area for the train to turn around. The locomotive will remain facing the same direction and will pull the railroad cars backwards. Until the locomotive changes direction 3 stations ahead, Gung Ling will drive in reverse. He says that during his 25-year career as an engine driver, he has never had an accident while driving the train backwards. The Bashu Railroad stretches across 20 kilometers and has 9 stations along the way. After winding through the mountainous pass, the last stop is Huanchuan Station. Then the train returns to Shishu Station. A round trip takes 2 hours and 30 minutes. There are no roads through the mountains for vehicles to drive on. With no way to commute by bus or car, this railroad is the only means of transportation. The locomotive is operated by only one engine driver and an assistant. The 2.5-hour round trip uses 1 ton of coal. Using just a shovel, coal is scooped into the boiler continuously. Gwen Ling said that for the first 2 years after becoming an engine driver, he experienced pain in his neck and shoulders and couldn't keep his neck turned for very long. The train has finally arrived at the station. Although called a station, it is unmanned and has no facilities. The train will stop if there are passengers waiting or for those wishing to get off here. In the baskets are construction tools. They're headed to work at a village 5 stations ahead. These two have purchased tiles. They are remodeling their home. Bashe Railroad has 109 curves. Moreover, the majority are tight turns. In order to drive through this mountainous terrain, the C2 locomotive was designed with a compact size. We arrive at Mi Feng Yai Station, located approximately at the middle of the route. Because the terrain is so rough, there is not enough land for the train to turn around. For this reason, a side track is used to move just the locomotive engine car to change the train's direction. The train temporarily stops here and detaches the locomotive engine car. How is the train going to change directions? The locomotive engine car enters the station to the right and goes past the passenger cars. It then heads to a location a short distance from the station. The returning locomotive engine car connects to the passenger cars. The train faces forward and once again gets underway. The train has been running along the tracks to the left. Because the valleys are too steep, they can only pass through this area using a special service line. This C2 locomotive is a 1962 model. It has been operating for about half a century now. The steam from this locomotive has created a small rainbow. At an average speed of 25 kilometers per hour, it gently glides along this large curve. The engine driver is holding the reverse lever handle, which is the vehicle's transmission. The other handle, on the left, is the brake. Because the track has a total of 109 curves, the engine driver cannot afford to lose concentration. Before the turn, he reduces speed, but once the danger has passed, speed is increased immediately. When passing through a village, he continuously sounds the horn to warn people to keep off the tracks. This is the town of Bago, which once flourished because of its coal mine. But the mine closed about 20 years ago. The Bashu Railroad takes its name from a combination of Bago and its depot, Shisha City. The transportation of postal items is another very important role of the Bashu Railroad. Because there are no roads, mail must be transported by the railroad. Xu Wen is a postal worker. Every day he commutes from the capital city, where a post office is located. He rides the bus and train to deliver the mail. Because the Bago post office has only one employee, home delivery of mail is not possible. In front of the post office, names are written on a blackboard announcing that postal items have arrived. When someone recognizes a name on the blackboard, the individual is then notified. This is a cash deposit slip. A daughter working in the city has sent some money back home. We arrive at the train's terminus, Huanchuan Station. This station also has mountains on one side and cliffs on the other, so the train cannot turn around. Once again, the locomotive engine car detaches, and the train changes direction using the service line. The waiting time is only 5 minutes. After the locomotive changes direction and reconnects to the railroad cars, the train once again heads toward the terminal, Shisha Station. This is Basche Railroad's repair facility. This railroad company owns 4 C2 locomotives. However, only 2 are operable. This is one of 4 locomotives manufactured in 1962. It has deteriorated, so they are replacing parts in order to make it operate again. From boiler to wheels, all repairs are done at this factory. The production of the C2 locomotive was discontinued in the 1970s. Therefore, the manufacturing of brand new parts also ceased. 70 factory workers have been working to repair and maintain the 4 locomotive engine cars and 20 passenger cars.
能够跑好多年，这个就我想在我们的班上和我们的这个领导的这个精心的科普下来，应该还跑了几十年，20-30年应该是没得问题的。
When spring comes, the terrace will be covered with flowers. After they bloom, rice planting begins. This is Mifeng Ai Station. Next to the station is a lodge.
So hopefully come back and see you again.
Each year, about 100 guests visit the lodge, with the majority being die-hard fans of the steam locomotive. Today, there are 3 British guests and an interpreter who have come here to see the Basche Railroad and to take photographs. Their plan is to stay for 3 days.
日本人、英国人，还有那个荷兰的、德国的，还有美国人都来过。德国人、日本人最多。
会说日语吗？
会说几句。
说2句。
比如说那个你好啊，就是库尼基瓜，还是。
The southern region of Sichuan province is warm, and the winters average a temperature of 10 degrees Celsius. Every month, on the calendar days that contain the numbers 1, 4, or 7, the train becomes congested. This is because the Shishu markets open on these days. We arrive at Shishu Station. Starting at Shishu Depot and turning around at Wanquanjing Terminal, the round trip took 2.5 hours. After getting off the train, the passengers head to the market, located next to the station. At the market, they sell all types of goods. There are food products, general goods, fertilizers, and even building materials. The market opens early in the morning, and by 2 in the afternoon, the majority of the shops close. The returning train is even more crowded with purchased goods. Most items are allowed on the train, even furniture and building materials. There are no limitations on size or weight. After a fruitful day of shopping, everyone heads home. The Bashe Railroad supports every person, from the elderly to the smallest child, who lives along its path. Winding through this southern area of Sichuan province's mountainous communities, this tiny locomotive continues to faithfully chug along today.
看清世界，欣赏真实。北京电视台纪实高清频道。
This is the quintessential Chinese steam locomotive, the Shangyou 1772. Over 2,000 such engines were built primarily in the 1960s. The locomotive cuts across the northern plains of Liaoning province. Use of these steam trains has dwindled considerably, even in their native China. But here, you can catch a glimpse of their exuberance on a daily basis. Mid-January, 6 a.m. Daobingshan Station in Liaoning Province. The passengers have yet to arrive. The Shangyou Type 1772 passenger train waits for its departure time. Pre-departure inspection is being conducted. The existence of any defective parts, such as loose screws, is carefully checked by ear and eye. Here is the cab of the Locomotive 1772. This is the engineer, Zhang Lixun. He started working with the railways at the age of 18 and became an engineer 10 years ago. Three operators run this train: the engineer, deputy engineer, and assistant engineer. The deputy engineer is Chen Lai-cun. Chen was 17 when he first rode the train. The assistant engineer, Xu Zhidong, began this line of work 6 years ago and is eyeing the position of engineer. On this morning, it is minus 18 degrees Celsius. Coal for the heating unit is hauled. Hot water, heated by the coal, passes through pipes and warms the passenger cars. Departure time draws near. The brake is released. The boiler valve is loosened and steam sent into the cylinders. The Shangyou type steam trains were manufactured between 1960 and 1999. They weigh 142.2 tons, have a total length of 21 meters, and generate 1,500 horsepower. The locomotive tows 7 passenger cars. Daobingshan, the city through which the trains run, is Liaoning Province's leading coal mining region. The coal companies operate the railways and connect the coal mines and factories. The majority of the passengers are employees and authorized personnel of the coal mining companies. The number of passengers this morning is approximately 800. A vendor makes her way through the train. Items for sale are soy milk and a snack food called xiaobing, pan-fried cakes made out of wheat flour.
这是调兵到小仓矿到东莞的。
你干什么去呢？
上班。
那个是每天都坐这火车吗？
对啊，我们每天都坐。
便宜呗，比那个汽车便宜呗。咱单位是一半的嘛那个。
我主要是首先是比较安全方便，而且还比较准时。再一个车上人比较多，大家在一起天天也很开心。
Engineers cannot let their guard down, as there are speed adjustments, track safety inspections, and boiler maintenance to conduct. A road crossing draws near. The train's speed is lowered, and an alarm whistle is sounded. To the engineer's right is the control shaft, which is a sort of accelerator. By pulling and pushing the control shaft, the amount of steam discharged from the boiler rises, increasing the train's speed. To his left is the reversing lever, which is similar to an automobile's transmission. This is the brake shaft. By turning the lever to the right, the locomotive and passenger car stops entirely. The deputy engineer is in charge of checking the safety conditions of the train's front and right sides, and the service schedule while the vehicle's in operation. If the chief engineer falls ill, he acts on his behalf. The alarm whistle is controlled by a foot pedal. The most important role of the assistant engineer is feeding the boiler with coal. On this day, approximately 3 tons of coal are used. He scoops up the coal with the aid of one shovel. The assistant engineer conducts boiler maintenance. The temperature inside the boiler is 1,000 degrees Celsius or more. If one false move is made with the water supply, a serious accident would be inevitable. The water level within the boiler is verified through a water gauge. This is a steam pressure gauge. The boiler temperature, water level, and steam pressure are checked through the use of various meters and gauges. The trains run at speeds of 40 kilometers per hour. Maximum speed is 80 kilometers per hour, but the rates are reduced for safety reasons. The Shangyou-type steam locomotive was originally developed for freight cars serving the coal mines and other industries. These are all made in China, and the majority of them were built at a factory in Tangshan in Hebei province. Since it does not run long distances, its body is relatively small. In order to maneuver through the curved terrain of coal mining country, the gaps between the 4 driving wheels were narrowed, creating a structure that could negotiate tight curves. In addition, another distinctive feature is its compact boiler design, making it easy to see ahead of the train. At 7:58 a.m. The locomotive pulls into Xiaokang Station, where a mining company is located. The majority of passengers are employees of Xiaokang Coal Mining Company, which sits right in front of the station. There are 4 rail lines in total. The 8 mining companies, which are located along these routes, have formed a business consortium called the Tiefa Coal Industrial Group, under which they manage the railways. The Tiefa Coal Industrial Group has 21 steam locomotives. 18 are currently in operation. All 18 are Shangyou-type models. There are hardly any railroad crossing barriers along this route. When a train nears a town or village, a whistle is sounded as a warning. After passing Xiaokang Station, the train becomes nearly empty. "8:19 a.m. We've arrived at the turnaround point of the route, Dongguan Tun. It's been an hour and 39 minutes since we left our starting point of Daobingshan Station. Dongguan Tun, where the station is located, is a farming community. But recently, housing for employees of Xiaokang Mining have sprouted up in the area, bringing new life to the town. The next train leaves in 1 hour's time. There are no shops for refueling or body repairs at Dongguan Tun Station. The Locomotive 1772 is unhinged from the passenger car. The car will be towed by another locomotive that has been prepared for service. The 1772 is promptly returned to Xiaokang Station without a moment to spare. The vehicle has returned to Xiaokang, a mining town. Here's our engineer, Zhang Lixin. He'll inspect a number of areas of the train's body by striking it with a hammer. He told us that if you come into contact with a locomotive every day for several years, you'd be able to detect abnormalities by sound too.
看到没？这个螺丝就比较就是说松这种声音，看到没？这个松跟那个不一样，那个就比较松。来，这就松，这就不太特殊怎么说。
Supplying oil to parts is the assistant engineer Xu Zhidong's job. He pays close attention to the lubricator wick. Made of goat's hair, a fully soaked wick slowly drips oil onto the wheel axis. However, should the goat hair come undone and fall off or wear thin, the axis will burn out. That could lead to an accident. The inspection and refueling take about 30 minutes to complete. Xiaokang Mining began operations in 1987. And today, the total length of its shaft spans 24 kilometers. Its annual coal output is 2.5 million tons, or roughly 42,000 freight carloads. From this station onward, the Locomotive 1772's role changes to that of a coal transport car. Once the coal has been loaded into the freight cars, they will take to the tracks. There are 10 cars, each one carrying 60 tons of coal for a total of 600 tons. Since the weight of a freight car is much more than a passenger car's, coal and water are used in large quantities. Due to its heavy mass, the car does not readily stop when the brake is pulled. As a result, speed is dropped to about 30 kilometers per hour. This is Daobingshan Station, from which the 1772 departed at 6:40 a.m. The operating hub of the Tiefa Coal Industrial Group, 4 lines converge at this station. At the plaza in front of the station, the Liaoning International Steam Locomotive Tourist Festival is held. Steam trains are gathered in the enclosure and are enthusiastically spewing steam into the air. Nearby, there's a steam locomotive museum. In addition to Chinese rail enthusiasts, about 200 people from overseas take part in the festival. The main attraction of the festival is the operation of the vehicles by the general public. This gentleman hails from Japan. For 200 yuan, roughly $25, you can drive the train back and forth for 200 meters. The 1772 rolls through a desolate cornfield. In the spring, the field changes into a sea of vivid green. The last stop on the route is Daqing Station. All the coal from the mines located along the railway is brought here. The 1772 pulls in. 600 tons of coal was hauled from Xiaokong Station over a 3-hour span. The steam locomotive is released at Daqing Station. From here on, a diesel locomotive will tow the freight cars and haul the coal throughout China. The 1772's work is done for the day. The engineers remove grit and grime from the train body and carefully wipe it with an oil-soaked cloth so that rust does not form.
这就是跟自行车，像自家自行车似的吧？自行车你不保养，天天埋汰的，那也不行，是不是？这机车嘛，就得更得清洁了。就我们对车头就特别有感情。 特别喜欢它吧，要不行就干这么些年，特别喜欢它。有些毛病了，马上我们就处理，自己能处理的赶紧处理。
Cars of the Shangyo-type steam locomotive once hauled scores of passengers, coal, and lumber throughout China. Today, here in Liaoning Province, the last of these special trains can still be found chugging along.